All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Edmund Miller. I'm from the University of Texas at Dallas. And today, I'm going to talk about testing, in case you all haven't heard enough about it at the summit here. All these lovely people as well here also were a part of starting to test NF-test, or testing with NF-test in NF Core. That's not going to be fun. Left and right. All right, there we go. Lovely. So why does everyone keep talking about testing? So testing data pipelines is really hard, is what we found. We really just want the bare minimum. We want confidence in our results. We want to make sure that things stay the same between versions. And we also found that bioinformatics software is really finicky. So in the original Nextflow paper, there was a figure, in case y'all haven't read it, that's talking about the reproducibility and the difference between software versions, and basically how even just using different, like using Mac OS versus Linux, you get completely different results from your data. So that's what we're trying to avoid here. We're trying to test between Singularity, Docker, Conda, all the things. Make sure that that is reproducible. So a little history of testing in NF Core. I kind of went back here, and this was really fun. So I found the first commit that had CI, May 11th, 2017. Phil added automated test via Travis. This is also about the time that I got into bioinformatics. In October 7th, 2019, they started using GitHub Actions. This was also before my time in NF Core. And it came out in the template in version 1.7. November 24th, 2020, Harshal made a very poor decision to merge a PR that I had to add pytest-workflow to NF Core modules and opened up Pandora's box here. And then in May 19th, 2021, I've been playing around with testing my workflows with pytest-workflow and CI. Maxime found that, he ran with it, and it's grown into a whole thing. And then lastly, I guess that's not going to work that way, so we'll just scroll down. So October 10th, last hackathon, Nicholas brought us into the modern era with NF-test and added the first PR for that. So this is kind of what pytest-workflow looked like. It was kind of a mess. As you can see, we have these like workflow stubs, and all we're doing is just trying to fit some input into FastQC here. It's kind of scary, not very new person friendly. And then we get these YAMLs, and these YAMLs then have lines of code that you can just run a bash script on for Nextflow run. And basically we're just calling Nextflow run, and then we're adding some tags, calling these various files on these. And then we're just checking for the output and the contains of that. So. And then lastly, we can also finally check for the MD5 sums as well, which is really important to make sure that the files stay the same between version releases. So, some things that we learned along the way. Basically, checking what code and only running tests for that code is one thing. I think we're really going to have to pay for our sins here when we get the CO2 plugin added as well, and answer for some of that. And so then we also had, we also needed to up the speed of this as well, of everybody sitting around waiting for pipelines to run and all that stuff. And then we also learned that Conda hates checksums. It just never matches up. And then lastly, the investing time in this actually pays off in the long run. It is a slight more investment in time, but then we end up having more, we fix less bugs in the future. So a couple NF-test features that we love. I'm not going to recover all of that. So first thing, simple one-line install. It's fantastic for new people. You just get up and running with NF-test. If you can install Nextflow, you can install NF-test. Next, it has some native support for Nextflow things, such as profiles, which is great. Instead of running all these pytest-workflow things and the convoluted stuff that we had going in CI that was just a mess to maintain and explain to people, and new users were like, they just didn't have any idea what was going on. And so then we also wanted to test everything all the way down. So we could test the processes, the workflows, the pipelines, and then even the functions as well. And so that was kind of revolutionary. And you'll notice also in this slide that there's a generate function that's happening as well, and that's because they're generating the test for you. And then, of course, snapshot generation that we talked about yesterday. We all love this. It's great. I used to go through and manually add the MD5 sums myself, and then we wrote a whole bunch of tools to like pull those in and rewrite them. I think Kevin did that a while ago, but now it just kind of automatically happens. Great idea. And then you can just run update snapshot whenever you update your software. And then another thing that's always a pain is in bioinformatics, we use so many like gzip files, and how do you test the contents of that? And we could write convoluted custom things for pytest-workflow, but you can just use Groovy here in ftest, and so that's really powerful. And I've seen a lot of cool things happen at the hackathon with that. And then there's also just some plugins that we can start adding. So far there's FASTAs, and you can kind of see that we can do various sequences, check for things. Again, making sure that our scientific results are accurate. So let's talk about adding nftest to nftest modules. So we wanted to only run the CI on code that changes, and then we also want to split up these jobs to run it on separate runners as well. And I apologize in advance. I gave a bite-sized talk about a year ago on nftest, and I realized I got to the end and I had no memes in it. So if I overcompensate here, I'm sorry. So modules has a ton of activity. Has like, for example, it's got 36,000 workflow runs going. This was about a month ago, but I checked again this morning and it still had 36,000. So in a normal month of activity, we typically have, 68 pull requests closed, 17 opened. This was pre-hackathon as well, so like not even including the hackathon here. So tons of activity, lots of stuff to maintain, a lot of stability issues. So I was trying to convince Harshal and like that we needed to switch to nftest. And he kept telling me, dude, I just don't know how to make it happen. Like we can't convert all of them at once, and Satish came up with a PR to, do it automatically. And I said, ¿por qué no los dos? One night. And I realized, why didn't we just run them both in CI and give the optionality to the users? So that's what we did. This is Adam's workflow that he ended up writing, and I just kind of wrote a rough draft on the first one. So now it'll run pytest-workflow. There's pytest-workflows there, or if it picks up nftest, it'll run nftest. You can run both at the same time. It doesn't matter. So we're slowly migrating those over, and that's what a major effort of the hackathon was for. And then as you can see, we also run that. So before the hackathon, we tested FastQC, which was my proof of concept, and then I think Adam added a test for snakemake. Don't know what to think about that. So we were still supporting pytest-workflow, and we still are. And then, so we're only running the tests on the changed code, which was a big thing as well, because we don't want to run extra tests. Now, we have 59 modules and subworkflows tested. Thank you to the community. Hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll get even more of those. We've also added automated module maintainers. I'm sorry for everyone that got pinged yesterday for 100 reviewers on various things. And then in the future, we're going to have automated version updates coming into the packages as well. So then the tests will get run. If they auto pass, it'll just automatically update the version for everybody. So let's talk about nftest in pipelines as well. So quick introduction to ifcore if you've never heard of it. So it's Nextflow pipelines with a twist. They run on everything. That has a lot of issues surrounding it, and then trying to run on all these platforms, making sure that they all work. Then we also have to support template updates. And when those templates come in, you cut a new release typically, and they add new features. However, those new features come with unintended bugs. And so also you get pull requests in from the community as well, and that's another various issue of things coming in when you're supporting an NF-core pipeline. But how do we have confidence in this code from new contributors that are around the world? So that's kind of what we're trying to solve with all the various testing aspects and why we're so heavily focused on CI. So in MethyLSeq in 2.4, we first added nftest. That was the first pipeline. We felt that was symbolic since it was the first NF-core pipeline. And then, so pre-hackathon, we had gotten through 7 pipelines. Post-hackathon, we've gotten through 11 with a couple of PRs open for some more. So this is kind of a little project I've been working on as well. So we have these various runners, and we've kind of realized that they're a finite resource, and it's difficult for when you're waiting in line, essentially, for them. So what happens on these runners, and you can really see this in Seric, basically you run each of the tests in sequence, so you're running multiple Nextflow workflows one after each other, so it'll take 20, 30 minutes. And so as you can see, like 16,000 workflow runs in a month or so on Seric. And then we get community feedback from it, of course. In case you're not in the NF Core meme Slack. Had to give credit to those. So I asked for a NF test feature, and of course they're great. And so basically we had, typically these software tests are ran in parallel. You're running like 1 + 2 = 3. Usually these tests don't take 5 minutes each as well. So let's think GitHub Actions for batch. So basically, instead of listing this, we list it in a JSON. That lets us then pull it into GitHub Actions, and then we can split it up, and we can run each of these on a separate GitHub runner. And so that will significantly speed up the testing time to 5 minutes of a CI check versus an hour. So where are we going? Hopefully we're going to lock down the NF Core NF test standard and get that kind of locked down so people can actually adopt it instead of trying to keep up with Harshal on those and his team. And then we're going to add NF test to the template. And then lastly, we'll swap out the test generation so when you create a new module, you're not rewriting the pytest-workflow tests. So in conclusion, this is from James, NF test all the things.
All right, awesome. Fantastic effort. I look forward to having NF tests for everything, right? One quick question. Can I execute NF test using the parameter file as input? For instance, if I run my Nextflow using the arguments params file params1.yaml, can I incorporate that in NF test? And feel free to answer that in Slack or go ahead.
I can answer that now. Open an issue on the NF test repo.
All right.
I don't maintain that, by the way.
Thank you so much.